Her name was Alara. She lived in a tall, thin house on Cobblestone Lane, its bricks the color of a faded bruise, its windows watching the street like sleepy eyes. People in Nevermore whispered about her, calling her a magician. They were right, but Alara kept her deepest secrets hidden in the crooked corners of her house. The townsfolk liked things they could understand: clocks that ticked on time, bread that always rose. Alara's magic was wild, so she learned to tame it, showing only small glimmers of wonder. Every evening, she'd stand on her rickety porch, holding an unlit candle. Children gathered at the end of the lane waiting. Alara would smile, whisper a word, and a tiny flame would flicker to life. For the children, it was enough. A promise that the world was bigger and more mysterious than it seemed. But the candle was just a performance, a distraction. The real magic lived inside her, a secret she had to protect. It was tied to the shadows of her house and the sorrow in her eyes. If anyone discovered it, they would not understand. They would be afraid. And fear, Alara knew, was dangerous. So she gave them just enough magic to wonder, and kept the rest locked away. Alara's theater was the basement of her crooked house, cool and smelling of old paper. The rough stone walls drank the light, and a single bulb cast long, ghostly shadows. Here, she practiced the safe tricks she showed the world. Her small wooden stage, painted black, hid secrets among shelves of curious objects: jars of colored smoke, heavy decks of cards, shimmering handkerchiefs. People wanted to be fooled, but also to believe the impossible might be real. Alone, Alara let real magic slip out: a teacup floating, a dead flower blooming. These were not tricks, but the magic that hummed inside her, beautiful and lonely. The dust in the basement swirled, holding memories of every gasp and moment of wonder. Her theater was a library of forgotten magic, and she was its quiet keeper. In the shadows and dust, she was most herself. One night, the town square buzzed with excitement. Alara stood on a small platform, gaslights casting a warm glow. She wore a simple dark dress and held up empty hands. "Tonight I need something light," she said. A boy offered a single white feather. Alara let it go, and it hovered, suspended in the air. The crowd gasped as she walked around it, proving there were no strings. With a soft breath, she sent it dancing above their heads, a spot of white against the night sky. The feather twirled, and the crowd watched in awe. Alara brought it back to her hand, and applause erupted. They didn't need to know how it was done, just that for a moment the world's rules could bend. After the show, a young girl approached. "How did you do it?" she whispered. Alara smiled, kneeling to the girl's level. She couldn't reveal the truth, so she prepared to share a magician's secret. Some secrets, she knew, were better left as wonder. Alara looked into the girl's eager eyes. "Magic is about making people look where you want them to look," she said, pulling out a shiny coin. She tossed it from hand to hand, the girl's eyes following. Then, as the girl watched the coin, Alara plucked the feather from her hair. "The secret isn't in the feather," she whispered. "It's a thread, almost invisible." She showed a spool of fine silk. "It's attached before the show. When I move, the feather dances." The girl's eyes widened with understanding, not disappointment. It was a different kind of magic, the magic of cleverness. Of course, there was no thread. The feather had flown by Alara's will. But this explanation was a gift, a secret the girl could hold. The girl smiled and ran off, feeling special and smart. Alara watched her go, loneliness settling in. She had shared a secret, but kept the real one locked away. Her props were just that, props in a play to hide the truth. Her magic was real, tied to the shadows of her house and the reason she lived alone. The secret was not just how she did her tricks, but who she was, and what she was capable of. Some truths, she knew, were too heavy to share. Back in her house, silence pressed in, heavy with old memories. Alara climbed the creaking stairs, the whispers starting as she reached the second floor. They weren't real voices, but echoes of the magic she tried to hide. The whispers grew stronger as she neared the attic, speaking of sorrow and loss. Her public tricks were a shield, pushing the whispers back for a while. Alone, the darkness crept in, whispering from the heart of the house. She reached the attic door, old and heavy, and placed her palm against it. The whispers swirled, louder now. She pushed a little magic into the door. The lock clicked open. The attic was cold, steeped in darkness and old grief. She didn't need a light. Her eyes could see in the dark. In the center, under a round window, sat a small, empty rocking chair. It began to rock as she entered. The whispers came from the chair, the reason for everything. One evening, a stranger arrived in Nevermore. He wore a gray suit and hat, his face shadowed, his gaze fixed on Alara during her performance. He didn't clap or gasp, just watched with cold intensity. After the show, he waited until the crowd was gone. "That was a clever trick with the feather," he said, his voice sharp. "The invisible thread, classic misdirection." Alara's heart raced. She'd only told the little girl about the thread. "It's an old trick," she replied, not meeting his eyes. The man chuckled. "But you and I know you didn't use a thread, did you, Alara?" A chill ran down her spine. "I don't know what you mean," she whispered. "I think you do," he said, stepping closer. "I collect rare things. Your kind of magic is the rarest." He wasn't just a stranger. He was a hunter, and she was what he was hunting. The whispers from her house felt close, as if they'd followed her into the square. Alara realized her secret was no longer safe. The time for hiding was over. She had to act. Fear tightened in Alara's chest. The man in the gray hat smiled, predatory. "Don't be afraid. I just want to understand your gift." He reached for her, but Alara knew his touch would be a cage. She couldn't fight him with real magic, not here. She had to use the magic they understood, illusion. Her hand found a small smooth stone in her case, a prop for vanishing. "You want to see real magic?" she asked, her voice strong. The man paused, intrigued. Alara threw shimmering dust into the air. It exploded in a flash of silver light and thick smoke. The man staggered back, shielding his eyes. When the smoke cleared, Alara was gone. Her case remained, but she had vanished. She hadn't run. There wasn't time. She'd performed the greatest disappearing act of her life. She'd called on the deep, dark magic, just for a second, and it had answered. The hunter was left alone in the square. Alara was free, for now. Alara hadn't run. She'd become a shadow. For a moment, she let the true magic take hold, pouring herself into the darkness. She watched the man search the square, frustration growing, her props scattered, the feather drifting away. She felt a pang for her lost life of tricks, but knew it was over. The hunter would never stop searching. As a shadow, she drifted through the empty streets back to her crooked house. She flowed through the attic window, the room waiting for her. The rocking chair was still, the whispers quiet. She solidified, standing in the cold room. She was no longer just a magician of tricks. She had used the deep magic to save herself. Now, she had to face its source. The empty chair was her darkest secret, a memory of someone she had loved and lost. Her twin sister Lily, born with the same magic but not the strength to control it. The magic had consumed Lily, leaving only echoes and grief. Alara's magic was her sorrow, transformed into power. Alara walked to the rocking chair, placing her hand on its worn wood. The whispers rose, filled with sadness. "Lily," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I have to leave." For years, she'd stayed to be close to her sister's echo, performing tricks to protect their secret. But now, staying was no longer safe. She looked out the window at Nevermore, remembering the wonder she'd brought to its people. Perhaps she'd planted a seed of magic that would grow after she was gone. A strange feeling grew inside her, not fear or sorrow, but hope. The magic had saved her, not consumed her. For the first time, she saw her gift as strength, not just a burden. It was love for her sister, a light in the darkness. She turned from the window, facing the empty chair one last time. "Goodbye, Lily," she said, her voice steady. As she prepared to leave, a warm light glowed from her hands, pushing back the attic's shadows. Her real magic was just beginning.